The day I buried my daughter, my sister threw herself a party. While I stood in silence, she filled her house with laughter. Grief made me invisible that day, like I was standing in a room no one else could see. I never imagined the truth about Nancy's death would come out like this, or that standing up for myself would be the only thing left to help me breathe again. I learned what real loneliness felt like the moment I stood beside my daughter's casket and realized my own sister had chosen balloons over saying goodbye. Nancy was only 7 years old. 7. The crash that took her from me had happened just 8 days ago. 8 days, and the world was already moving on without her. The pastor said her name gently, like even he was afraid it might break in his mouth. I kept my hands folded tightly in front of me because I knew if I touched that polished wood one more time, I wouldn't be able to let her go. The church was full. Neighbors, familiar faces. Her second-grade teacher sat quietly in the front row, eyes red, hands clasped. 2 police officers stood near the back, holding their hats, like they didn't know where to look. Nancy's best friend held a sunflower, her tiny hands shaking as if she didn't understand why she was there. But my family wasn't there. Not my mother, not my cousins, and not my sister, Rose. I kept looking at the doors anyway, hoping, praying they would open at the last second, that my sister would run in, out of breath, full of regret, ready to say she was sorry. But the doors never opened, and she never came. After the burial, I stayed behind, long after everyone else had gone. The last handful of earth had already fallen, but I couldn't move. It felt wrong to leave her there, alone, in the quiet. The pastor said a few final words, softly, before walking away. And then it was just me, standing there, staring at her name, trying to understand how something so small could leave such a silence behind. Mrs. Phillips from next door was the only one who came back for me. She pressed a warm casserole dish into my hands, like she was trying to give me something to hold on to. "You promise you'll eat, Catherine?" she asked gently. "I will. Thank you, Mrs. Phillips." My voice didn't sound like mine anymore. She squeezed my hand, holding it just a little longer than usual. "You call me if you need anything. I mean it. I'll miss your little girl more than I can say." I nodded, but my throat tightened, and the words just wouldn't come out, because nothing I said would ever be enough. The house was quiet, too quiet. Nancy's rainbow magnets were still on the fridge, bright, colorful, like nothing had changed. Her shoes were still by the door, toes pointing outward as if she might run in at any moment. I found myself talking without even thinking. "Did you see how many sunflowers they brought, Nance? You would have liked that." My voice echoed back at me, but there was no answer. The kettle's whistle suddenly filled the silence, sharp, almost out of place. I poured the tea slowly, watching the steam rise, and then I realized I had made 2 cups, out of habit, out of hope, maybe. I just stood there, staring at them, waiting for something, anything, but nothing came, and the silence felt even louder than before. My phone rang. I stared at the screen for a moment, Not ready, not expecting anything good on a day like this. For a second, I thought it might be my mother calling to finally break the silence. But it wasn't. It was Rose. Her name lit up the screen like nothing had happened. I hesitated, then answered. "Cass, you sound tired," she said, her voice light, almost cheerful. It didn't belong in my house. Not today. Not after everything. "I just wanted to let you know we moved the housewarming to today," she continued. "The weather was too perfect to pass up. You know how hard it is to get everyone together." My fingers tightened around the phone. My voice came out quieter than I expected. Today was Nancy's funeral. There was a pause, but not the kind I needed. And then she kept talking, like I hadn't said anything at all. "Catherine, this is my first home. You know how much this means to me. People have already brought gifts. You can't possibly expect me to postpone everything for..." I swallowed hard. "For my daughter?" Another pause, this one colder. Then she sighed. "You always make things so dramatic," she said. "Nancy is gone." The words hit harder than I expected. "Are you jealous that I'm finally getting something nice?" "Maybe I will," I said. The words surprised even me. For a moment, there was silence on the other end. Then I heard the shift in her voice. Relief. "Good," she said quickly. "Just try to be positive, okay?" Positive. I stared at the wall, not really seeing it. "I'll be there," I said quietly. We ended the call just like that. No apology, no understanding, just silence again. I stood there, holding the phone in my hand, feeling something change inside me. Not anger, not yet. Something quieter, something heavier. I walked toward the mirror slowly, stopping in front of it. For a second, I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. My eyes looked tired, empty, like I had already cried everything out. "I won't scream," I whispered. "I won't collapse." My voice was steady, but it didn't feel strong. "And I won't beg." I paused, taking a slow breath. "But I will look her in the eye." I picked up my keys, my hand slightly shaking, and turned toward the door. I didn't know what I would find on the other side of her house, but I knew one thing. If I stayed here, the guilt would keep using my name. Rose's new house sat at the end of a quiet street, freshly painted, almost glowing under the evening light. Green and gold balloons were tied to the mailbox, swaying gently in the breeze. Music drifted out into the street, along with laughter, loud, carefree laughter. I parked across the road and just sat there for a moment, watching. People walked in and out of the house, carrying wrapped gifts, smiling, celebrating, like it was just another perfect day, like nothing had happened. My hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel as my eyes fixed on the balloons. Green. Nancy loved green balloons. The thought hit me harder than I expected, like something pressing against my chest. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My legs felt weak, like they didn't belong to me anymore. But I forced myself to move. Slowly, I opened the door, stepped out, and walked toward the house, each step heavier than the last. Past people talking, laughing, living, while I was still trying to understand how my world had stopped. I kept my eyes forward, not trusting myself to look at anyone for too long, because if I did, I might break. But I didn't come here to break. I came here to look her in the eye. The noise hit me all at once. Music, laughter, voices overlapping. Too loud, too alive for a day like this. For a second, I just stood there, feeling completely out of place, like I had walked into the wrong world. No one noticed me at first. People brushed past me, smiling, holding drinks, lost in their own happiness. And then I saw her, Rose, standing in the center of it all, laughing like she didn't have a care in the world, like nothing had happened. My chest tightened, but I didn't stop walking. Step by step, I moved toward her. Someone bumped into me, muttering an apology, but I barely heard it. My focus never left her. She hadn't seen me yet, not until I was close enough. Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Catherine?" she said, like she wasn't expecting me to actually come. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, really looked at her, trying to understand how someone could sound so normal on a day that had destroyed me. "You came," she said, forcing a small smile. I nodded once, slowly. I said I would. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The noise around us faded into the background, like everything else had stepped back to watch what would happen next. "You look different," Rose said finally. Her voice was softer now, but it still didn't feel right. Not here, not today. I let out a slow breath, trying to steady myself. "You said something on the phone," I began. My voice was calm, but it carried more weight than I expected. "That Nancy is gone." The words hung between us, heavy, uncomfortable. Rose shifted slightly, glancing around like she didn't want people to hear. "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly. "But she is, Catherine. You have to accept." "Don't." The word came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take it back. For the first time, her expression changed. Not confident, not dismissive, just unsure. "You don't get to say her name like that," I said, my voice lower now, trembling just beneath the surface. "You don't get to reduce her to something that's just gone." People nearby had started to notice. The laughter wasn't as loud anymore. A few eyes turned in our direction, but I didn't stop. "You weren't there," I continued. "You didn't see her." My throat tightened, but I pushed through it. "You didn't hold her hand when she was scared." The silence around us deepened, and for the first time that night, Rose didn't have anything to say. No one said anything. Not at first. The room felt different now, quieter. Not because the music had stopped, but because something heavier had taken its place. I could feel their eyes on me, on us, waiting. Rose let out a small breath, like she was trying to steady herself. "You're right," she said softly. The words caught me off guard. I wasn't there. Her voice wasn't defensive anymore, not sharp, just lower, more careful. "I didn't see her," she continued. "I didn't hear her cry." She looked down for a moment, her fingers tightening slightly around the glass in her hand. "And I didn't hold her hand." The words echoed back at me, but they didn't feel the same coming from her. There was something else in them now, something real. "I didn't know how bad it was," she said. "I thought you were just overwhelmed." My chest tightened again, but this time it wasn't anger. It was something more complicated. "You stopped answering my calls," she added quietly. "I didn't know what else to do." I shook my head slightly, not in disagreement, but in disbelief. "I was burying my daughter," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. I wasn't ignoring you. The silence that followed was heavier than anything before. And this time, no one looked away. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The room stayed quiet, like it was holding its breath. Rose looked at me, really looked this time. Not past me, not through me, but at me. I didn't understand, she said softly. Her voice wasn't defensive anymore, just honest. I thought you were shutting me out. I swallowed slowly, the weight of everything still sitting heavy in my chest. I was trying to survive, I said. Not angry, not accusing, just tired. Telling the story over and over, answering questions, watching people look at me like I was supposed to be okay. I shook my head slightly. I didn't have anything left to give. The words felt different now, lighter, but still fragile. Rose nodded slowly, like she was finally hearing me. I should have been there, she said, not as an excuse, but as the truth. I didn't respond right away, because some words don't fix what's already been broken, but they matter in a quieter way. I don't need everything to go back to how it was, I said finally, my voice steady but soft. I just needed you to see me. The silence that followed was no longer heavy, just still. And for the first time that night, I didn't feel alone.